In this video, I will show you how easy it is to get your database connected to your ASP.NET Core API connection or application. So this is what we see here now as a preview in my application. I have the application and there's the API nodes where I've written some nodes, some informations in a table. In this table, so this is a SQL server which is on the site where my my ASP.NET Core application is. So I'm able to drop my my production application to a web server, and on the web server there's a local database which will be connected with integrated security. So we would get here, we have here in this automatic application a database. You may try it automatically with here with a Swagger API nodes. Try it, execute, and then you see these are the JSON results, the entries of my database. And the database is in here, just as a preview, view data. So I have a database which is existing. Normally, when you do real-world applications, you always have an existing database somewhere, a SQL server which is running in the behind, and you're not working on a green meadow at the beginning. So I will show you now how this works to create an API connection, API controller or application as a front end for as a back end for something like Spa, Angular, Vue, or Blazor, for example. So I do now the following. I close my application and we are creating from the base. So I start my Visual Studio 2019. That's what we need. I create a new project, and in there I would say this is an API. I want to create an API on C# on Windows, on web. It should also run on Linux, but I am not sure. So we have here that's what we see here, ASP.NET Core Web Application Project templates for creating ASP.NET Core Web Apps and Web APIs for Windows, and nothing else. So you see, these are the same. Now I would say I take this one. I said go next. Now I say I go to my demo application, take a demo application, another folder, demo API 4. And now I say, okay, start. And now you see there comes a new interface, a new dialog, which says, okay, do I work in MVC? So this is until 4.7 point something else, the classic MVC, or on .NET Core. And in there, I think now it's time to switch from the 4, go to 5. So this is ASP.NET Core. It's .NET 5 nomenclature or naming. I don't know, naming is it. And we have, you see, there are different stuff, but internally they are close the same. So we are not now starting an ASP.NET Core Web API. Not empty, not web app, no Angular. Angular is also with the index files. So we start here on as a back end, and we start with no authentication. We start here with enable Open API support. I'm not sure. I think this is for Swagger. Now we say okay. I start there, and it's HTTPS because our target is HTTPS. Now we have a small application, and when I start there, you will see there comes up a small weather forecast sample, which is always, that's like the hello sample. So that's the weather forecast, and when we create an API, then we get the Swagger in there. Swagger is a small helper which gives us the results of our try it out here, execute. This is for our APIs, since we are creating APIs in this model. So I've shown this one here, the APIs in my website. So we have here front end, and then we have the APIs as connections, and the ASP.NET Core web server does the data handling and file handling if we have separate files, and the authentication. All that stuff is done by the ASP.NET Core. So Angular and this stuff is only front end, but the future is that a client only wants data from something, and for this is Angular or Vue very helpful, because they have a model you don't have to write some for next loops. In here it's easy. With a JavaScript it's with the async programming it's terrible. So we start now. We have this application, and we first have a look on our project. We go here to our project, we say, hey, project properties. In there we have a small look in the debug. The debug is we're starting here in here there's a local host, that's the default start, but you see this is not the HTTPS, it's the default which is not with a secured layer. The SSL is by here, this will automatically start if we push run. We call here this run file. Then we have IIS Express, which will start here as an icon. And then it automatically starts with a subnode /swagger. So /swagger is implemented here in startup. So, and this shows the API connections, because the API backend only needs the API output, data output as JSON. So now we have our application. Inside the application we have here in the controllers the weather forecast controller. That's our controller, which says, okay, my namespace is my application. I have here a controller base. A controller base always gives out the API results. So these are the JSON values. And then there's some stuff in there. And this one says, whenever you ask me my address, like weather forecast default, then this is of HTTP GET, and I give you back an array of data. And this is always JSON. This says controller base. And additionally to this file is one model file where the model is in there. So there's a data model, and now we have the problem or the advantage. In C# we have a data model, like a database, like the field in there, and we have and we program by saying something like IntelliSense.summary, for example, when we're going here into our output. And now we need a database. Where's our database? When we start there, we have a database usually or sometimes or useful on a real backend, which is a big server. So we are not creating it at runtime. When we have a real application, we have the server on the backend, and now we need to transport that. So we go here to our view SQL Server Object Explorer. In there you may add your existing SQL Server, which is in my case, that's my local machine. This is always a dot. Dot means I am at the current machine, / sqlexpress. That's a default installation which has nearly everything like a SQL Server. There's nothing what you will ever miss on this point. Now the installation here is running on my machine, but it doesn't have to run all the time. It will start whenever you whenever there's a request for that somebody needs the SQL Server. So this is the installation is in behind, and whenever I'm running now my code, the SQL Server will start automatically. Now I'm creating a database like this here. You may only say, okay, add a new database. So this is my API database 02, and I'm just want to show you how easy it is in work in there. Now you have the tables in there, and inside the tables we make a new data table where we have, come on. Now we will say here, this is the ID field. We have a title, for example, for which is an varchar of, normally it's a maximum string of 255, and we have some details, for example, and we will say this is of detail max. So this is a long text, and when we do this on the SQL Server, we have the advantage that it's that the structure will automatically be written. I don't have to care about not null and all that stuff. This is internal stuff. And now makes, for example, date edit. That's our date time. So we have this structure now. And when we go on this field, we need also, yeah, it is now in there. That's it. And I would say, and saving this into our block will be done by update, and the update creates that structure there. Update database. Now we have here this, and this key means that it's automatically, that it's the most important field in there, which is the field where the database is, this table is orientated. So this is, you will find this by properties, and inside here we have the identity specification. And now it says, when we have by default, it's, where's it gone? Now, here it is, it dropped in there. By default, we have this in our, don't like it there. By default, we have here is identity, and this is false, and we have to double click on this, and now it makes true, and it's an automatically incrementing. So this is our primary key, how it's called. Primary key identity means it's counting always by a step of 1 up. So now I'm updating this one, updating it. Now I have a data. Now I have a table in there. I forgot to give it a name. Then save this one, and I didn't give it a name. So this was bullshit. Rename. This is my table nodes, for example. Update script. I'm not sure if it runs on there. Now when I'm back in here, my SQL Server, I will get under the properties. There is one field under the properties. When you're there, table, go to the table, you will find here under the database properties. Now this is this one. You will find here a data connection string. This is the string which we need for our database. So I will copy this now. So this one, Control C. So now this is my database. Okay, and now I switch to my Solution Explorer again. Now this is my application. We throw the weather forecast away. We don't need it because this is a class which is a default class here from that system as a template. We also don't need the weather forecast controller, but we need a folder which is called, create a folder, add a new folder which is called models, and in there we throw our model from our SQL Server object, SQL Server. Now what we need is, we go here to our package manager console. That's in this one. We go here when we need it. first we checked under packages, we need some NuGet packages. We need add a new NuGet packager. So we say here Entity Framework Core. That's important. Browse Entity Framework Core. Now we need the Entity Framework Core. We need the design. We need the tools. And we need the this is design, the tools, and the SQL server. When it's installed, we have here a green arrow on there, and this one also. Green arrow, green arrow, green arrow, green arrow. So now we have the functionality to give to embed all that stuff, and we do now the following. We go now to the management package manager console. We find the under tools, NuGet package manager console. Here the console. Now this is this one, and we do now the following. We say, where's my command? I've documented this command. We need this one. We say Scaffold DBContext. That's for entering this one. So we go now here to the PM package manager console. We say Control V. So now we have the following stuff. Scaffold DBContext, database context, server is //sqlexpress. / means this is my local machine. Even if I'm on a web server, it's a local machine there. And we have here the database is API database 02. So we have now on our SQL server the database 02. And trusted connection means I don't need a user password combination. I need straight into my machine because this is one machine. We have the Entity Framework Core SQL Server, and we're outputting our models. All the files which are there in there, all tables, have to go into models. And we do now start the command build started. And we go to the Solution Explorer. Then we see here is under models now those two files. This is the nodes and the database 02 context. Inside the database 02 context, this is the context, the connection to the SQL server. And there's one thing, it says, okay, this is my local namespace under the folder models, the API DB context. So this is the database with a word context in as a second part. And we have now, when it's on configuring, we have the use SQL server, and there's the connection string, which should go here into connected services afterwards. But it's in there now automatically. Now, when I start my application, I will get an error. Automatically, system runs to Swagger. To the Swagger, no operations defined in specs because I've thrown the weather forecast away. But if we go now to our, if I want to show now my database, we go on. Here under the nodes, we have the data model, which is now our table. A little bit confusing. So this is under the models are the database classes. This is my table, and as you see, there's this question marks means this may also be null. And otherwise string is not null always, and int is it will be automatically incremented. There are no further stuff in here. I will enhance this later. And under controllers is no controller at the moment, so we go there and say under controllers we need a new controller, add a new item. And inside item, we need a controller, an API controller. API controller. You see now this is an empty API or an API with read-write stuff, and we need it on our, this is wrong, API controller is wrong. I want to do it under class. I have this one. Once again, we need a new add new controller. This one, I need this one. Again, we need here a new controller, add a new controller, this one. And I've done something wrong. I took new item was wrong. Add a new controller. Under there we say API, and now we need this one. API controller with actions using entity framework. And now I say, okay, which is the model class? We need the node, this one, this nodes. And we have here the database context is this one, which came in here. No, not the nodes one. We need API models here, this one. It's called API models. And the controller is nodes controller in plural. Now we get a controller in here. Now we will soon come to a point. Now it created this controller, and in the controller we have now the path is API / and now in brackets controller means nodes, and inside there we have now this is create a controller of controller base, and give me a base means it gives only always as a return value is JSON values. Now we have the get, give me get all nodes. Then as a default get only one node, and put and post. You have to watch or be alerted that you have to note that there is no authenticate here in these post thing at the moment. Everybody may write in there, so we have to authorize it in a later position. So this is in development. Okay, let's close this one. We don't need all this further stuff. Also delete deletion. This is on our small example, automatically done. So we have now API nodes. Now when we start our application, the system comes up and says, okay, now there are nodes in there. And we have now, we may check it or try it out, and we get a big error there now. So this is the same what happened. We would also say, okay, let's do the same address here in, let's say we take here API nodes, same one, and we get the same error which is also written here in the Swagger result. And now what's happening? This is a big error which says unhandled exception occurred while processing the request. Something is wrong. Invalidation operation exception unable to resolve service for type demo blah 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 models context. So it says I can't open the context. And the point is that when I try now to make a breakpoint and say, okay, I want to look up what's happening, and when I push now on my local system a return a refresh button, the breakpoint will never come to this position. So there's something else wrong, and this is has a good reason, because we forgot something. We need in this API database too, the service in here, the database context, is not there when the system starts. So where there's the system starting, we need here under configure services also the DB context as service. So we have to write one line in there which is called like this. We need add services at DBContext, so database context. And now we have under our project, which is called demo, in this case demo API 4, under the folder models, there's one further context, and this is called .api the database 2 context. Now this is demo project models, and then this one. And now the database connects whenever it starts. Here it is. When the system starts, it connects the injection of our database context, because when the nodes go up, when here's the nodes controller, the nodes controller has in the constructor here in the public nodes controller API, so it needs the database. Now when I start it again, it starts with a Swagger, and inside the Swagger, when we go there, we say try it out, execute, and now we should get some results in there. Are there results? Failed to fetch. Now I have to look up what it is, but failed to fetch shouldn't be the result. There should be some values. Now I'm looking up what's the error. Yes, and the reason for this is quite simple, because we entered no data in there actually. So we go now to our database, we open the SQL Server Object Explorer, we go to our table, there we say view data or edit some data. Edit data, view data, edit data, and here we have only the view data. Now we say this is my line 1 with the details 1, and now is the 20th January 2021 and 16:53. This is my date and this is my line 2 and some details xxx and something else, you know. And now I don't have to care and further. Now I close it and I don't care about everything else, because this is real database world. And when now when I take my refresh again here on my client or my Swagger to test these values, then I should get some results. Text plain, still an error, but this error is not major error, no main error at the moment. I have to look up. Maybe this is because I renamed my file. I'm not sure if it gets really the database nodes of type node. I have to check it out, so I'm not hanging out too much around. Here's I'm checking the same, and if I do it, if I correct it, then I will get a result like this. It's a this is the JSON result, which I may read now in Angular or in Vue as a model. And this was how to a description how we embed or scaffold large formats into our ASP.NET Core API model. And you have to be careful when you have internal stuff which is not authenticated, which you have to authorize, like .NET roles, ASP.NET users and all that stuff. Or if somebody writes in that stuff, then we have to, you may scaffold that stuff in here. And we also have to say here authentication, like this one here, authentication. And then everything is done.